Well, good morning. How's everybody doing? Are you good? Yes? Oh, thank you so much for being here. My name is Bill. I'm the lead pastor here. And if you came today to celebrate with someone who's being baptized, thank you. I just realized there are many places you could be. And you picked a great Sunday to be with us because in a few moments it's going to get a little rowdy in here. And because we just believe in celebration and life. And so thank you for being here. If you're first time with us, and if you're watching us online, thank you for the literally hundreds of you who watch from all over the world. If you could just connect with us again and let us know where you're watching from, we'd love to hear from you. And if there's anything we can do for you, just interact with our online pastor there in the chat box, and we'd love to serve you if we can. And so we're just so glad that you're here today. Now, I don't know what you believe about God, and I don't know what you believe about whether God speaks or not. But I actually believe both those things are true. And so this morning I woke up, and I normally wake up fairly early on a Sunday, and I had this really strong impression. And I've learned not to ignore them. I've learned not to ignore those moments where you just feel really deep down inside of you something significant is happening. And so I don't know what brought you into this place. I don't know if you're here for the very first time because you came to celebrate with someone, or if you're watching online for the first time because someone sent you a link. I'm not sure if you come all the time, but I do know that someone in this space, whether it's watching today or watching later at another time, needs to hear what I'm about to say. Because I really woke up this morning with this strong impression that someone here needs to hear these two simple words: you matter. And I know it's simple, and I know it doesn't seem that profound, but it really is, because as I woke up, I felt this angst that there are people who are going to be here today or listening to this who feel like they don't matter. As a matter of fact, there's some of you that have been wrestling with this for a really long time. You wonder, why do I even get up? Nobody cares. I'm doing nothing to make the world any difference in the world. Why am I here? And to you, I just need to declare the truth. That you matter. You matter to God, you matter to this world, and you matter to me. Even if I don't know you, I don't know your story, you matter to me. And I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope today to inspire you with the truth of who God is and who He made you to be, that you matter to God. That you're not here by some cosmic accident, that there's a purpose for your life. You matter to this world, that we're going to learn today that there's someone who is waiting for you, and because of that, you matter to us. And we're doing our best to be a family that understands belonging, that it doesn't matter if you believe differently than us, you get to belong, that we're a family on a journey. We don't have it all figured out, but we're working on this together. Why? Because you matter. Because you matter. And so about 65 years ago, there was a little girl, an 8-year-old little girl who lived in a lot of fear. And she lived in fear because her parents were both alcoholics, and they were abusive emotionally and even sometimes physically. And so she remembers as a little girl hiding in the closet when her parents would come home, sheltering her younger siblings to protect them from what potentially could happen if they got in the way of their parents. And this little girl would wait until her parents would pass out, and then she would crawl over their bodies to scrounge for some kind of food because they hadn't eaten that day. In this little girl's life was a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity, a lot of uncertainty. And I'm sure, even though she probably couldn't articulate it, was this question: do I even matter? Why am I here? And then one day that changed. For this little girl was brought to a space like this, a family that cares like this one does. And she was told for the very first time the words, "I told you that she mattered." And for the first time in her life, she felt loved and accepted, like she had a purpose. And it changed her life. But it didn't only change her life, it changed her entire family. Not just her immediate family, but generations. For that little girl was my mother. And I'm so thankful that somewhere along her journey, in her story, someone had the courage to step in and say, you matter. That you matter. You're not here by some accident, that there's a purpose for your life. And that's what we've been exploring in this series. And I actually think it's the message of the Bible. If I were to summarize the Bible from beginning to end, from Genesis to Revelation, and to articulate it in a way that's really easy to understand but true, it's this: that you belong to God. You matter to Him. And you matter to this world. This world needs you. And because of that, you matter to us, that we are a family trying to figure this thing out together. So the Bible reminds us that in the beginning, God created. Have you ever wondered if that is true? And I believe it is. Why? Why would He do that? I think it's because He wanted to create you so that you could be put in an environment where you belong and have purpose and have hope. And so into this world was created what is called the Garden of Eden. And as much as it is a physical place, it's actually far deeper, richer than that. It's the reality of the way the world is supposed to be, the way the world could be. It's why you're disappointed that the world isn't that way. It's why you're frustrated and maybe even angry. It's maybe even why you don't feel like you fit, because you know something inside of you says there's got to be something better than this. It's why we've been using this image of a child's drawing. When you're a little kid, I mean, call it naive optimism. You just believe the best, don't you? Like when you drew pictures as a kid, everything was colorful and everybody was happy and you could be an astronaut. No one was there to tell you you couldn't. You just believed, I want to go to the moon, I can. You believed you could be anything you wanted to be. But somewhere in your journey, reality came crashing in and ripped the rug from underneath your feet, and you were faced with the reality of chaos, the way the world is not supposed to be. And so into this perfect world, the Bible tells us that we were banished from it. We were rejected from it, that because of our own choices, we chose our own way, and we found ourselves in the wilderness looking for the garden again, lost, confused, bewildered, asking questions. And we learned that this garden was supposed to be a place of belonging. And so that's what we talked about last week. We talked about how you and I were created not only to be fully known, but to be fully loved. And then the other one was this idea that we were to be fully known and fully loved, but then also into this belonging, we were created with purpose. That's what I want to talk to you about today. And then next week, we're going to talk about hope, and then we're going to wrap it all up at Easter with the power of being transformed, that this is possible for you. It's not a pipe dream. It's not a religious ideal. It's a reality, and you can experience it. And so I hope you come back Easter, and I hope you bring somebody with you. But into this perfect world, the Bible says that God blessed humanity, and He said to them, be fruitful and multiply, increase in number. And then He said these two really interesting words. He said, fill it, fill the earth, and subdue it. And I want to just kind of anchor on these two phrases today because I think it's where purpose is found. What does it mean to fill the earth and to subdue it? This word fill is an interesting word in the original language because we think of fill like you fill your gas tank, you fill a glass of water, and that's partially it. But it's much deeper and richer than that in the original language. It probably is better translated fulfill. This idea that we were designed to accomplish or to fulfill something. It's this idea that something has unbelievable potential and you and I get to come alongside it and see it reach that potential. So I defined it this way. Purpose is redeeming the potential around you. This speaks to the way we see our world, our perspective. Now, I know. Maybe I am a naive optimist, but I actually believe that we were called to see the good and to make that good come to be. Now, we live in a world that sees a lot of negative, right? I mean, if you just watch the news, it's hard to be positive. Let's be honest, right? It's hard to be positive when you talk to people because all we see is the negative. All we see is the broken. All we see is the bad. But I think what this means is that true purpose is when you're able to see through that all and see what could be, to see potential, to see possibility. And so God said, I'm going to give you this planet. I'm going to give you this world, and I want you to see possibility. I want you to fill it. And then He also said, I want you to subdue it. And this speaks to the reality that not only do we get to choose what we see, we also get to choose what we do. that we have power. And I know, so many people I meet think they are powerless, but you are not. There's incredible power in what you speak. There's incredible power in the choices that you make. There's incredible power in what you believe. And so he said, I want you not only to fill the earth with its full potential, but I want you to actually fill it with purpose. And what I mean by that is using your power to bring order to chaos. Now, I know we live in a world of chaos. If you cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs, or you like country music, or you own a cat, you've invited chaos into your life. I'm sorry, that was your choice. We live in a world of chaos. Couldn't resist. But into that, God says you and I can bring order. And so I want to just spend the next few minutes talking about how you can choose what you see and how you can choose what you do and how that can bring purpose into your life. That you are not here by accident and you matter a lot. And here's why. Because purpose is simple. We've made it so complicated. We've made purpose, how many likes you get on social media, or how many people follow you, or how many people are fans, or how much money you make, or how big your house is, or how many vacations you went on. But can I tell you the truth about that? That beautiful house you own right now that's new, one day will get torn down, and no one will want to live in it. That bank account that you have, that you're hoarding all that stuff in, you're going to give it to your kids, and you know what they're going to do with it? They're going to spend it all. That's what they're going to do with it. That body that you're working so hard to get chiseled and ripped is going to get flabby and die. I mean, that's just the reality. So when we put all of our stock and all of our purpose in things that don't matter, things that don't last, no wonder we're so frustrated. No wonder so many people get to the end of their life and they wonder, did I do anything that mattered? And into that, God says it's actually really simple. You want to live on purpose, you simply see a need. You see what could be, you see the brokenness, but the possibility, and you fill it. Back one there. You fill it, and so doing bring order in someone's chaos. See, I think that a lot of us live in chaos. The truth is that many of you in this space, you have chaos in your family, you have chaos in your finances, you have chaos in your physical body, you have chaos in your mind, we have chaos in our workplaces and in our schools. We are surrounded by chaos. But what if I told you that you could be someone who simply saw a need and filled it, and in so doing brings some order to that chaos? Or to make it even more simple, purpose is the reality that someone is waiting for you. Someone's waiting for you. You may not know it, you may not believe it, but it is true. Let me give you a couple examples. I was online this week, and CNN does this thing called CNN Heroes, and I just want to highlight 4 of them. You can go online and read the full stories, and there's videos and everything there, but here are 4 people who just decided to do something. They got up one morning and they decided, listen, this world is full of chaos and I may not be able to do everything, but I can do something. The first hero that we came across was Doc Henley, and Doc Henley was a bartender, and through a series of events he discovered or learned that there are children in the world who are dying simply because they do not have access to clean water. That more children are dying of that result over those who are dying of AIDS or tuberculosis combined. The truth was that this is a major world crisis. And so faced with this need, he didn't know what he could do. And so he decided to do what he knew how to do. And so he invited all of his friends and he started a fundraiser called Wine to Water, where he raised money by pouring wine for people in order to provide water for those who had none. He saw a need and he decided to fill it. And he's brought order into a lot of kids' chaos. I read this other hero of this lady from Nepal. Her name is Pushpa Basnet. And she was training at university to be a social worker. And for one of her projects, she was to go into a prison and to just kind of observe what was happening there. And in Nepal, when someone is incarcerated, if they have children and those children have no one to care for them, they put their children in prison with them. And so she saw these children behind bars through no fault of their own. And so, moved by compassion, she decided to do something about it. She started an early childhood center in the prison. And then she, through a fundraising and getting others involved, was able to build a house where these children could live, visit their parents, but have a space that wasn't behind bars, where they could break a cycle and get a shot at life. I read the story of Aki Ra, who grew up near where I grew up in Thailand, in Cambodia. And as a young boy, he was forced to be a child soldier. And his task was to lay landmines throughout the nation of Cambodia. And if you've ever been to Cambodia, you'll know that it is a major problem. There are still literally thousands of active landmines throughout the country. And so, as he escaped and the Khmer Rouge crumbled and fell, he was so broken by this need and what he had done, he decided to do something. He didn't know what else to do, but just by himself and with a knife, he began to diffuse landmines. Everywhere he went, he could go. He started diffusing and training others how to diffuse these landmines. And in that journey, he came across children whose legs had been blown off and families who'd been devastated by a death. And he started an orphanage for kids who couldn't take care of themselves, or families who couldn't take care of their own children. I read the story of Betty Makoni from Zimbabwe, who at the age of 6 years old was raped. For in this nation, the idea or the thought is that if you rape a virgin, it will cure you of AIDS. And then when she was 9 years old, she had to witness as her own mother was raped and killed in front of her. For most of us, that amount of chaos and trauma would destroy us, would crush us. But she decided that she was going to do something about it. She refused to allow herself to be defined as a victim. Instead, she decided that she was going to help other children who were the victims of sexual abuse all across her nation. And to this day, 35,000 girls have been rescued because of her efforts. You see, purpose is actually more simple than you think it is. Purpose is actually more accessible to you than you believe it is. For true purpose is simply seeing a need and filling it in order to bring order to a world of chaos. So who is waiting for you? Who is waiting for you? You say, I don't know. Then could I challenge you to live in the way of Jesus? You see, the reason we follow Jesus in our context is not because we follow some religious dogma. No, we follow a person who stepped into our chaos, stepped into our world, and showed us a totally different way to live. He had incredible power, but he used that power not to oppress, but to lift up. Not to perpetuate hate, but to choose the way of love, to not destroy, but to heal. And this way was costly, for this world rejects that way. For when someone lives in true purpose, it's a threat. And so they thought they would silence the voice by nailing him to a cross. But what they did was unleash the power of love even in chaos and darkness. That even evil cannot hold down love and cannot hold down purpose. That even in death, there can be life. And Jesus addressed not the external realities and problems, for those are important, and there are many great heroes who are doing that, but he actually addressed the deeper part of us. The reason that we experience all of this external chaos. The reality is that the external chaos, the wars and the famine, all the things that we experience outside are simply a reflection of the brokenness inside. And so Jesus stepped into our reality to heal our heart. He saw our need for meaning and purpose and belonging and hope. And so he spoke words that brought life and hope to everyone he came in contact with the lepers who you weren't supposed to touch, he embraced. And the women that you weren't supposed to associate with because of their lifestyle, he embraced. The tax collectors, those who were ripping people off, he embraced. The enemy, the Roman centurion, he embraced. Why? Because purpose is seeing a need, seeing the brokenness of minds and bodies and hearts and lives, and speaking power and doing things that lead people to an understanding that there's a God who loves them. You see, you matter. You matter to God, and that's why Jesus came. And you matter to this world. That's why Jesus came, to show us the way back into the garden. And then he told us that we must live in belonging, that we matter to each other. That we, if we choose, can live in purpose. And just before he left, he said this to all of us in Acts chapter 1:8. And he said, listen, I know you feel like you can't do it. And I know that you're overwhelmed by it, maybe even anxious about it. Don't be. You, not the person next to you, although that's for them too, but this is for you. Not for some superhero or people who are super talented or who have lots of resources. No, all of you, you will receive power. The power to change the world. You can receive it. All you have to do is ask for it. And when you do, the Holy Spirit will come upon you. This reality that there's something more. It's why you wonder. It's actually kind of why you're here. Is there something more? And you will be my witnesses. Witnesses of what? This beautiful truth. That in a world that tells you that you're an accident or a mistake or a failure. I heard that a lot growing up. That's the lie. The truth is that you matter. The truth is that there's a reason for your life, and you'll be my witnesses of this. You can tell this to everyone who will listen to you. Where? In Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. And what that simply means is everywhere you go. Imagine if tomorrow morning you woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. That yes, you still saw the chaos. This isn't naive optimism. This isn't ignorance or denial. No, you still saw the chaos, but you made the choice to bring order to the chaos. That in the line at Tim Hortons where people are fuming because they have to wait 5 minutes for their coffee, that doesn't even taste that good. You can bring order by being someone loving and kind and generous. Imagine what would happen in our homes if we took this approach that there's a purpose, that you live in that home. There's a purpose that that child was given to you. I know there's some days you wonder. There's a reason you're in that space, and it's to bring order to the chaos. That place you work at, I know you think you got a job interview, and I know you think that you earned it with that degree, and you negotiated the contract, but the truth is God placed you there on purpose. So the question is, wherever you go, are you bringing chaos or order? Evil or good? You can be a witness of God's amazing power. When I was growing up, I had a few people who were like this for me. When times I desperately needed it, I had a coach who was a great coach and a great person, but far deeper than that, was tapped into this reality, this power of God. And there was a time when I needed him, and he came into my life and he just spoke something to me, and he probably doesn't even remember, and he probably doesn't even remember who I was because I wasn't that good, but in that moment he spoke something to me and he brought order to my chaos. I had a mom and dad who, when I was doubting and struggling and wondering if I mattered or was worth anything, who would continually speak to me, no, you matter. They brought order to my chaos. I was fortunate enough to marry a wonderful woman who, in the times of my life when I don't feel like I'm lovable, she brings order to my chaos. So when it comes to purpose, the question is, are you bringing chaos and order? And if you'd like to change that, maybe you find yourself in a place where, yes, it's true, chaos is all around me and I want to bring order, then you can receive you can receive the gift of God today and be transformed by his power. And you can live on purpose. And you can find your way back out of the wilderness, the way back into the garden. And this is why Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Not because he was trying to start another religion or he's trying to be exclusive, but rather because he was saying, I am the model. You want to know what it looks like to live on purpose? This is what it means. It means see what God sees, possibility, and do what God does, love, even if it kills you. And so today, you came on a wonderful Sunday, for we are about to celebrate with those who are being baptized. And for us, this is more than just a religious ritual or observation. This is a powerful declaration. And so if you've never been a part of this experience, I hope you can feel it online, because this place is about to get electric. It's about to get a little rowdy, and if you're used to church being boring, you're going to be very disappointed in these next few moments. Because we are going to get very excited. Because we are going to celebrate with those who've made the decision to live on purpose. And so I want you to know what you're watching and what you're seeing. In a moment, people are going to walk into the baptismal tank, and it is their public declaration that they have chosen. They have chosen to live on purpose, to receive God's gift of freedom and forgiveness, and now to be agents of that everywhere that they go. The problem is that the thing sometimes keeping us from purpose is us. We want it comfortable, we want it safe, we want it secure, we want it our way. And so in order to live this way, you got to die to yourself. That's the hard part. And so you're going to see them go under the water. And in that moment, there are two things that they're declaring. One, we identify with Jesus in his death for us. But we also saying, I want to die to the old me that was clawing and scratching through life, trying to find meaning and purpose in things outside of me when really the problem was me. So I'm dying to that old me, and I'm receiving God's purpose for my life, that I am forgiven, that I am free, that now I can live in a new possibility with hope again. And when they come up out of the water, you're going to hear it in this place. We cheer, we celebrate, we dance. Why? Because there's new life, there's hope. And next week I want to talk about hope, because there is no greater power on this planet than when we understand that we have hope because we are loved. And they're going to rise up out of that water a new ways. It doesn't mean they're going to change instantly, not necessarily, but they begin the journey, and we are going to journey with them together. So today, we celebrate through baptism what purpose really is. It means bringing order, letting God bring order to your life so that you can bring order everywhere you go. And so if you're here today and this is kind of a new thing for you, maybe you're hearing what I said at the beginning, you needed to hear that you matter. And you want to know more about that. If you're watching online, I just want to encourage you to interact with our online pastor and ask, what does that mean? What does it mean to receive God's power? What does it mean to receive God's order for my life so I can live on purpose? We'd love to tell you. And if you're here today in our live experience, I want to encourage you that you can just take a moment. Don't leave before you've talked to somebody, maybe the person who brought you, or go to the great big blue wall if you're here by yourself and just ask, how can I tap into this? We'd love to begin the journey with you. We don't have all the answers. We're not perfect. But we have hope, we belong, and we have purpose. And so today, this is the greatest celebration for us as followers of Jesus, for it signals a new beginning. And for all of you who go into that space, I just remind you that you're forgiven, that you're new, and God's going to use you for incredible things. There's so much promise and potential. Today is just another step in that journey. And so we're with you, we cheer you on. And again, if you're new to this and you want to rush the stage, take pictures, you're welcome to do that. We do that here. But let's pray. God, I thank you. I thank you that you woke me up early this morning because somebody in this space needed to hear that they matter. And And I know that that means that there's some in this place who believe the lie that they don't. Maybe they've been told that all their life. Maybe they've been told you're worthless, you're useless, you'll never amount to anything, you're a failure, and that isn't true. Maybe there's someone in this space who's been rejected over and over and over again, and they've started to believe that no one could ever love them. That is not true. Maybe they've spent their whole life chasing after things to find some satisfaction, only to find disappointment and failure on the other side of the weekend. And so they feel like they'll never be happy. That's not true. The truth is today that you matter to God, that there's a God who created you in His image and has incredible promise and potential for you. You have to receive it. You have to ask for it, but it's there for you, that today can be a new day. That is the truth. That you matter to God and you matter to this world, that someone is waiting for you on the other side of that decision, that someone's just waiting for you to rise up and to see what God sees and to do what God does. That person who has the locker next to you at school, that person that irritates you at work, that person who's causing you grief in your home, God has actually sent you to them to remind them that they are loved and that they matter too. And yes, it's hard. Yes, sometimes it means we have to die to ourselves and what we want and what we think is important, but that's the way love wins. And so I thank you that in this celebration, we're reminded that we can die to our old way of thinking, our old life, our old habits, our old patterns, the things that were destroying us, and we can rise up into life, into something new. Your purpose for us. And so because of that, we are filled with joy today and hope and optimism, because we celebrate with those who've come to the realization that they matter to you. And because of that, they matter to us as well. So God, thank you for what you're doing and what you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen. And so why don't you stand all over this place, get ready to celebrate. If you want to come down to the front, you're welcome to do that. But let's cheer, let's celebrate with those who are being baptized today.